Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, according to your respective time zones. Welcome to the webinar, Enhance Your HATS Horizon with Web Services. It's part of the webinar series program organized by Royal Cyber for increasing awareness and sharing benefits of IBM Host Access Transformation Service, or HATS. This webinar focuses on the web services and SOA and how this helps in HATS to achieve the desired modernization. We will also discuss a case study where web services were used primarily to achieve the modernization, and in the end we will demonstrate the web service creation on HATS. I am Yasir Hassan, and with me I have our HATS specialist Asif Hussain, Hussain Nuruddin, and my namesake Mr. Aga Yasir. Let's start with the agenda. We will start off with a brief information about us, that is Royal Cyber. Next, we will explore HATS tool at surface level. We will move on with a brief overview of service-oriented architecture, or SOA, and web services. In the next section, we will touch upon the web services scenario. Then we will share the brief detail of a case study where our solution was based on SOA with web services. We are quite honored as the case study was recognized and published by none other than IBM itself. We will conclude with the demonstration of development of web service on HATS tool. We will try not to get too technical overall, but the last section obviously requires some development background. Let us give a very brief introduction about us, Royal Cyber. Royal Cyber is a modernized e-business solution provider specializing in software development. We are IBM Premier Business Partner, IBM Authorized Trainer, and Microsoft Certified Gold Partners. Since the company's inception in 1997, we are among the leaders in providing training and consultancy of IBM Rational, WebSphere, Tivoli, Lotus, Cognos, and Microsoft family solutions to businesses worldwide, which include many Fortune 500 companies as well. We are headquartered in Chicago, Illinois. We have a global footprint with offices and development centers across North America, Europe, Asia, Africa, and Middle East, as you can see in the slide. As mentioned earlier, we are IBM Premier Business Partners, IBM Authorized Trainers, and Microsoft Certified Gold Partners. Here is our brand portfolio. As you can see, we have covered all the possible bases with our solutions. You can see enterprise modernization, database server, portal, middleware, e-commerce, all are part of our technical armory. These are few of our clients. Our entire clientele is way larger than this. However, the idea we want to communicate via this slide is the diversity in our client base. Like AON is a major insurance provider. Apple Vacations are end-to-end travel facilitators. Abdul Latif Jamal is KSA-based IT consulting firm. So you can see our client base is quite diverse. Let us discuss IBM Rational Host Access Transformation Service, or HATS in short. Rational HATS is a premier IBM product suite that is inarguably the best tool for presenting old green screen applications built on servers like IBM I, IBM Z, mainframes in modernized manner rapidly and efficiently. HATS modernized version can be prepared for various output mediums. There is no need to make any changes in the existing application on green screen. So the mature, open, time-proven platform and technology stays at the back end, whereas you modernize it from the front end. so the user of current era find it convenient to follow and browse. There is no need to migrate data with HATS implementation. The reason is obvious, because the green screen is running at backend as it was running previously. You all know that it is very hard to train people on old obsolete technology, so moving to HATS permits the organization to take on board new resources, and I mean, it's very easy to find resources for modern technology as compared to old legacy technologies. So the resources are always available to you. HATS does not only display the content of green screen application on the Modernize interface. There are so many things that HATS can do, like modernizing green screen per the recent UI standards, using macros, customization and other techniques to show green screen data in organized and friendly manner. Advanced controls and widgets can also be used, which are naturally absent in the green screens. HATS can also be used for creating mobile version for specific devices for your business needs. This is the overall development process in HATS. Like any application we create these days, a HATS application is created on a modern IDE, that is Eclipse in our case. The HATS application is deployed on WebSphere application server. Of course, during the design and development, the developers and the technical resource always have the green screens in front of them, because the basic idea is to modernize the legacy application, so they have to have the access of green screen. But the end user, the green screen become transparent as they only see the modernized version. Now, when the user accesses the application via his or her system, WAS become responsible for showing the modernized view to the end user, and at the same time it performs act like picking and providing data to green screen. But basically, WAS fulfills the need of green screen at any given time, whereas at the front end it shows the same thing in the modernized manner on the latest UI with all the AJAX controls and everything. You can see here that the development environment is not very complex. It's quite standard, the Eclipse version. And people who are developers don't need to be informed that this is a modernized interface. That goes without saying that development becomes a lot easier on such interfaces as compared to the old green screen interfaces. The data from legacy server like System I and System Z can be used at various places as demonstrated in this slide. Data once processed by HATS can be deployed for web application, rich clients, portals, and mobile devices. Web services can also be created to allow communication between multiple systems. Now we will show you briefly some improved interfaces we created via HATS. As you can see in this slide, non-user friendly green screen is transformed into modern screen with latest button, widgets, and controls. Now, using macro-based approach of HATS, multiple screens are mapped into one modernized screen. As you can see in this slide, that we combined the logic that was present on the green screen, where user had to access 8 different screens to reach certain results. But we used a macro, and after using the macro, the entire logic of 8 screen was transformed into a solitary single screen. With dynamic menu built in HATS, we can create user roles and rights-based menu options. These menus are either absent in the legacy application or are very, very, very hard to use and program, of course. For executive and higher management and the decision maker of all kind, quick and easy to read graphs are really helpful. With HATS, the flat numerical data can be transformed into charts and graphs easily. It is hard to read and understand the trend analysis in the numerical form. However, it's a different story altogether when the same data is presented in the form of charts or graphs. So you can see in this slide that we have only displayed line chart, but with hats you can provide you can represent the data in multiple other types of graphs like bar chart, column chart, pie chart, cluster charts, to name a few. As you can see in this slide, hats can also generate mobile version of the green screen application for the particular devices, and we can also have a generic solution as well. This is the overall architecture of HATS implementation, where the main frame server is used for the green screen application. The HATS application is deployed on the WAS, that is application server, and then it can be used on various platform, browser, devices via HTTP protocol, web services, etc. Now let us discuss the service-oriented architecture, or SOA. I'm not going into the details of as architecture is a very detailed topic, and we have limited time here, and we have to cover a lot of stuff related to web services. So, I mean, we'll just touch upon these topics. A service-oriented architecture is built on the idea of services. The vendor-independent, product-independent, technology-independent services, that is. Each service is a standalone software in itself, and it can be exposed to any entity accordingly. The services or components are not to be confused with the web services, as web services are exposed over the web or a network, as the name suggests, but the SOA is built on individual services or components that are standalone programs as well. Web services can definitely be part of SOA, but it's not all about web services. So the important term to understand here is the service itself. There are many advantages of SOA, and no wonder it is among the most popular architecture followed by people these days. The advantages include like convenience in introducing new products or alter the existing ones according to the market need. A well-designed SOA helps organization in responding to the real-world ever-changing needs without much delay. Due to the concept of components, it is easy to handle complex large systems because the large system is divided into smaller component or services. Each component or service is potentially a standalone project, can be a standalone project in itself. Special focus is given to the ability to integrate with other components within the software of the same organization, and to the outside world entities altogether. Due to the proper protocol it follows, data transfer and migration becomes relatively easier. SOA implementation reduces the overall complexity, and components can be reused alone or in conjunction with other components. Now we will discuss the web services, their usages, etc. Web service is an application component that communicates via open protocol like HTTP, SMTP, etc. It processes XML message framed using SOAP, the protocol for communication. It describes its message using XML schema most of the time. It provides an endpoint description using WSDL, where the input and output of the web service are defined, and it can be published and discovered using UDDI. Web services are standardized programming language, platform and vendor independent standalone components. This allow application to application integration, controlled integration, that is. It follows a specific syntax of request and response. Mostly it is done via XML. I've never seen any implementation which was not done on the XML, but theoretically speaking, there can be other ways apart from XML as well. and it is accessible remotely, as the name suggests. It's a web service, so and mostly on web, but it can also be on WAN on particular network that you define. These are the most important components of the web service. XML, it's a uniform data representation and exchange mechanism. SOAP, it's a standard way of communication between requester and the transmitter of the service. UDDI, Universal Description, Discovery, and Integration, it's a mechanism to register and locate web service based applications. And WSDL, it's a standard meta language to describe the web service that is offered. There are many benefits of web service, but very salient and very obvious ones are mentioned here, like loosely coupled. Each service exists independently of the other services that make up the application. Individual pieces of the application to be modified without impacting unrelated areas. It provides ease of integration because data is isolated between application, creating silos. Web service act as a glue between these and enable easier communication within and across organizations. With web services, you take the code reusability to whole new level. A specific function within the domain is only coded once, and it can be used over and over again by the consuming applications or the requester. Because of the standardization, and the most important thing is the anticipated standardization at the receiving end, it is very easy to develop the web services, and it can be done in very quick time. Excuse me. So basically, this is how a generic web service works. We have a provider who publish web service at registry. The definition part, basically input, output, or the interface of the web service, it is defined via WSDL, and service is published via UDDI. And requester basically finds the web service. The other term used for find are discover or lookup. So basically they talk to UDDI server or the registry and invoke method by using invoke their internal methods by using WSDL definition structure. Once the service is found, requester and provider are bound together, and they communicate with each other using SOAP protocol. The UDDI server is optional and mainly used in the scenarios where data is retrieved from a third party like Google, Facebook. In normal setting, the UDDI layer is omitted altogether, and the provider and requester coordinate directly using the SOAP protocol. But for the services like if you want integration with Google Maps, so you have to have UDDI. Otherwise, I mean, you cannot possibly connect directly to Google. So here we have an example. Consider a person wants that person wants to get enrolled in an online course. Now that learner visits an online course portal. Upon searching the course, the online portal retrieves available courses from the partner providers that are the partners. Now this integration can be done via web service with a simple parameter that can be even the search string provided by the learner. Now consider that provider is transparent to the user. I mean, you have gone to the online portal and you don't know where the course is coming from. So that person goes to that the same portal from where he got the course, and now when he actually play the course, the content are retrieved from the provider. So this transfer of the course content, this can also be done via web service. And as you can provide the course ID, enrollment ID, depending on the logic implemented in the program to get the content from the provider or partner. Now there is another web service involved here. The user has to make some payment. So It can be done by a credit card or some payment service like PayPal, Money Booker. They call it Skrill, I guess. The whole process can be done by consuming the web service offered by the respective vendors. So this example may be rough around the edges, but I hope you get the basic idea that multiple vendors were involved in the overall transaction, but at the user end, it was all transparent and it all happened seamlessly. Now my fellow colleague Asif Hussain will discuss the web scenarios in the context of IBM Rational HATS, and he will also present the case study. So over to you, Asif.
Thank you, Yasser. Now we will discuss some scenarios how web services are serviced or consumed in HATS. To better understand how HATS handles web services and how they are architecturally handled by HATS engine, first we have to see what macros are and what HATS macros are in specifically. Macros are used to automate end-user interactions with the host. You can record and play macros to skip screens, prompt users for data inputs, and extract host screen information. A macro can be used to retrieve information from certain set of screens as defined in it. Macros are actually foundation of web services made in HATS. When a web service is called, a macro is executed and it logs in host and inputs or extracts certain data and replies the results. So basically, macro is one of the very important building block of a HATS web service. Now let's see how web services can be used in HATS and how they are useful. Web services in HATS can be mainly of three types listed here. The third one can be further divided into two more implementation scenarios. Number one is to extract data from host application. Number two, it can be used to insert data to host system. And number three, it can consuming a web service from a HATS application is possible, and by consuming it, we can display received data or received information on web, or either we can insert that received data or information into the host application. So let's move to some detail on each of these application scenarios of web services. Okay, here you can see a common scenario of data collection or extraction from host green screen application. Other systems with access to our HATS web service can call our service. HATS application that is running on some WebSphere application server or WebSphere portal server receives the web service call, and it triggers a macro to traverse some host green screens and pick text from specified areas of certain screens as defined in the macro. This extracted data is then passed to the web service calling application or system by HATS application. So this is how data from a green screen application is read based on a service call, and all this information is sent back to the calling system. This is the scenario number one. Now let's see another scenario. Now we'll see a scenario of data insertion into green host screen system application using web services. An outer system with access to our HATS web service calls service and sends some data. This data is sent from web service caller to HATS. Yeah, this means HATS receives the data, some data from a calling application. HATS application that is running on some WebSphere application server or WebSphere portal server receives the web service call, puts the received data in some variables or in some other format in the HATS application, and it then triggers a macro to traverse some host green screens and put received data in specified fields on certain screens as defined in the macro. This is how data received from web service caller is inserted to host application. Success message or failure message with error text is then replied to the web service calling application by HATS application. Now let's see another scenario. This is a scenario to show how a third-party web service can be consumed in a HATS application. Users are using a HATS application from any web-enabled device. They reach a situation defined as a trigger to call or consume a third-party web service. So HATS application calls a web service from a defined outer system. The outer system services the call and replies the data or XML. This data is received by HATS application and is presented on the web page as defined, as it is specified in a specified format as defined in the HATS application's code. HATS application does not impact to the host green screen system, though the web service call may have been triggered on host green screen situation. Now it's the second scenario within the third main scenario we had. In this, we'll see how a third-party web service can be consumed in HATS application, and that this consumed web service will make changes to the host too. Users are accessing a HATS application. They get to a situation defined as a trigger to call and consume a third-party web service. HATS application calls a web service from a defined external system. Outer system services the call and replies in the form of data or XML. This data is received by HATS application, and then HATS sends it for insertion on certain host green screens using a macro that will traverse different screens on host and insert the received data. Now let's discuss a success story here, how one of our client enabled SOA on IBM I green screen application using HATS. Aon IntegraMark is a debt cancellation service provider for the US lending industry. The company excuse me. The company provides a broad range of debt cancellation solutions and serves large-scale financial institutions offering general purpose and retail credit cards. Aon is in fact, Aon Integramark is a wholly owned subsidiary of Aon PLC, a leading global provider of risk management, human resource insurance, and reinsurance brokerage solutions, as well as outsourcing services. Aon has 65,000 employees in more than 120. Aon is having a heterogeneous system built with lots of applications. Some of them were connected while some were islands. Mainly such islands were iSeries based green screen applications. So there was big problem with keeping synchronized corporate applications. Aon wanted to have a flexible, easy, and quick access to corporate data stored on iSeries from more than 30 plus corporate applications, and to reuse trusted business logic that was on green screens. This is a sample web service for Aon where forwarding and updating data from multiple databases and green screens was required, and it was done by HATS Web Services. HATS has a graphical macro editor. Macros can be triggered by web service calls to perform the action as discussed earlier. This solution created a service-oriented architecture that would facilitate information flow among corporate applications, help reuse existing business logic stored in RPG code, in green screen applications, and quickly and easily retrieve corporate data stored on IBM I servers in Microsoft SQL Server format. Royal Cyber created a service-oriented architecture using IBM Rational HATS and IBM WebSphere software. HATS Web Services helped in implementing service-oriented architecture, enabling flexible applications scalability. That it accelerated performance and productivity by bringing data from green screens into one channel, that was web service. High response time. Each web service has over 10,000 plus hits per day now. The SOA web services that we made, they made applications to application communication easier, faster data access through web services made business expand fast, quick and easy access to data stored in green screens, guaranteed higher productivity and business satisfaction. Users and customers became able to find insurance, risk information, update insurance, and other related details. So they were aware and they were happy. Aon Integramark established a dynamic SOA environment that automates data synchronization among the company's many corporate applications. The company's employees and customers can quickly access information and initiate updates. As a result, Aon Integramark has increased internal efficiency by as much as 85% because of staff members save more than 1 minute per database query. In fact, the company is seeing excellent response time from applications in spite of receiving more than 10,000 daily hits per web service. The company has also laid the foundation for increased scalability by improving and simplifying application-to-application communication. The new solution will also be easier to enhance in the future because employees can write SOA-based applications using any programming language, and they can reuse trusted code. This is what Aon's AVP wrote about our solution. It is also published in published by IBM case study on their website. What Mr. Larry said is we have improved the scalability of our applications and achieved a level of data integration that wasn't possible previously. Now I would request Agha Yasir and Hussein Nuruddin, our top HATS developers, to give you the technical demonstration of the web service creation in HATS IDE. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Asif. Today, we build a web service. It is a step-by-step wizard. We have tried to keep it simple, but obviously, you need to have development background to understand. Macro is going to multiple screens to bring the data based on the query. We are providing customer number, and macro is going to multiple screens to pull other details of the very customer like name, address, city, country, and so on. Right-click under macro and select Create Integration Object. This is the starting of our web service creation process. We provide name and other relevant details of the web service. Here you can see the object is appearing under source folder. Right-click on the integration object and select Create Web Service Support Files. This will create input and output files to support the integration process later. Now the support files are created for the web service. 3 files are created. Get customer record, it contains the description of the integration object. Get customer record input properties. This file contains classes and methods to define input and output behavior etc. Get customer record output properties. These input-output file contain classes and methods to define input and output behaviors etc. Now, under web service class folder, which is appearing under the source folder, right-click on customer record file and click web service to create the desired web service. Upon successful request in the previous step, you will see this pop-up. Press next here. In this step, check generate WSDL file into the project. Please note this is not selected by default. Press next. Check all 3 options here and click next. After previous screen, you will see this screen. Press finish in this step and you are done with web service creation. Now, when you deploy the application on web server like FLOSS, the web service will also be published. Anywho, the web service that we create is ready to be used now. You can see the visitor file under the web content folder. Now, to test the recently created web service, right-click on the visitor file, then select Web Service and then select Test with Web Service Explorer. Here you can see that the customer number field is available for providing the value. After providing the customer number, press Go button or reset to make the field blank again. At the backend, system runs the macro and brings in details of the customer from multiple screens in the XML format. If programmed properly, then in case of no result, a proper reply is provided to the requester. Graceful handling. As you can see, we get a proper error message. That's all from my side. Now I ask Yasir to conclude the webinar.
Thank you, Yasir and Hussain. Rational HATS is not something specific to Royal Cyber. So you may ask why Royal Cyber should be selected to design such a solution based on HATS. The answer is very simple. We are IBM tools specialists and have solid expertise over the IBM suite, including HATS. We have more than 15 years of experience of successful implementations and a satisfied client base on the similar solutions on our back. Due to our global presence and expertise, we have the capability to provide quickest yet efficient solution with round-the-clock availability for support. We keep on learning the tools ourselves and work closely with IBM on beta releases of their entire product suite. Our people are undoubtedly our biggest strength. With around 500 consultants, you can consider yourself to be in safest of the hands. Our portfolio provides end-to-end solution, so you can get one window operation under the same roof. Finally, let us show you some of our expertise on the HATS tools. Besides the off-the-shelf features provided in HATS, from our years-long experience, we are now able to create some artifacts that are not provided by default, but they can add a lot of value to the overall solution. Of course, they require custom development from our side. You can see some of the features in the list that we have implemented for our client over the year, like Google Map API, the barcode implementation, integration with social media like Twitter, Facebook, screen combination, clickable file widget, sorting widget, mixed case component, currency format, to name a few. Let me remind you that this webinar only covers the web services part in HATS, which obviously is a fraction of the entire HATS feature list. You can see on the screen that we also have other training, other detailed training on HATS. For instance, this distance learning workshop. It's a 2-day-long workshop where you will learn the HATS development from scratch. Other than that, we also offer online and on-site instructor-led trainings. The curriculum for the workshop, the distance learning one, is fixed. But for the ILT session, we can have customized curriculum as well according to the customer need, and we can also include other solutions apart from HATS in there as well. So that's it from the webinar. So please feel free to ask any questions. We are open for the question. We can also open your mic, or you can type your question in the chat box.
So we have a question from Mr. Smith. He has asked that does HATS support RESTful web service? And the answer is yes. HATS started supporting RESTful web service from version 8 and onwards. So it is now under support. Muhammad Siddiq has raised hand. Muhammad, can you type in your question in the questions window, or would you like us to open your mic? I can open your mic, I think. Okay, here he is. You have shown a web service from macro, how macro is extracting info from the screens. Okay. As you know, that probably know, I can only say that we can provide screen recognition criteria in HATS for screens. So a macro runs based on that screen recognition criteria. When it is triggered, it provides certain inputs to the HATS, in fact to the host, and based on that inputs, the host application navigates to certain screen, and from a certain location already programmed in terms of characters and rows, it extracts some details from the page. No, it can, by macro we can write any business logic in it, and it can execute that business logic with it. So for the other audience, I can say that one of our participant asked that does macro work only for screens? So it can execute other business logics, it can access databases, it can do lots of things. You're welcome, Muhammad Siddiq. So you can join our next sessions. Keep visiting our website for more questions and more information. Feel free to contact us for any queries. You can get 40 hours of consultancy free of cost from us for any kind of modernization. And let me remind you again about our HATS training programs. Stay tuned with us for more trainings and webinars. Thank you very much for your participation. We hope you enjoyed the session. Goodbye from all of us. Hope to see you again. Thank you.